So it's going to be a really interesting free agent class for the NFL. And one of the big dominoes is going to be what's going to happen with T. Higgins. So T. Higgins, with a franchise tag of $26.2 million guaranteed, that is a 120% raise for last year. They are going to look at getting a new deal done, but there is a chance that Higgins does elect not to sign that tag. So he would be an option to be traded to another team. Now, Higgins initially requested a trade last year. Ultimately, they weren't able to get one done, and he comes back, has a pretty solid year, but it definitely that we could see a holdout in Higgins, and we could see him move. Now, 2024 played 12 games, had 73 catches, 911 yards, 10 touchdowns, and he's not just the best free agent receiver in this class potentially. He might just be the best free agent that's available. That's how talented he is. And I think for me, if I'm a team out there looking to bring in T. Higgins, I just look at the consistent production. I mean, only one time in his career he's had less than 900 yards. He had 1,000-yard seasons his first 3 seasons and 900 yards in 2 others, and he didn't play a full schedule, full slate of games. So I think if I'm a team out there looking to add Higgins, it's not to be my true number one that's the guy that's going to take us over the top. It's a guy that can be a number one, but also be a missing piece for you. And the first team I like is the Buffalo Bills. You look at the Bills trying to fill that void that was left by Stephon Diggs. They went out there, they drafted Keon Coleman out of Florida State. He has shown some promise, but he doesn't look like that number one just yet, or someone that's going to put up the numbers and make the plays they need to get Josh Allen over the hump right now. And then they traded for Cooper last year, and against the Chiefs in their loss in the AFC Championship game, Coleman and Cooper, they combined for 45 yards on just 5 catches in the playoffs. The Bills need to swing for the fences and make a move, acquire some talent to get that first Super Bowl for Josh Allen, for that Buffalo Bills franchise. I need to see someone like a T. Higgins mixing in with the Khalil Shakir. I think that'd be interesting. Second team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers have just lacked that true number one. They've lacked firepower. We've talked about it on this show. George Pickens, essentially the only reliable receiver they had last year in Pittsburgh, and even the numbers that he put up with, 900 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns on 59 catches, a respectable year, but that does not scream number one, or that's like 2-ish on a really good passing offense. No other Steelers receiver had a 40 catch or 550 receiving yard season last year. Steelers, they can make some sense. And this is a sneaky team I've got for Higgins. That is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have a burgeoning superstar in Brian Thomas Jr. As a rookie, he was really one of the only bright spots for that Jaguars team. Christian Kirk may have played his last season there. He had the injury for a second consecutive season. There's some talks that he could be cut. You got Gabe Davis. He wasn't great before he was injured. The Jags have to find someone to pair with Thomas in 2025 and just beyond 2025 to really solidify something. And that is a move that I really think would be interesting because he's still young. Higgins can be that almost mentor veteran that also is helping them win now. So those are the 3 teams I like. I like the Jaguars, I like the Steelers. Number one, though, I need the Bills to make a move. But out of those 3 teams, J-Rob, who do you like?
Honestly, I can't even believe I'm saying this. It's the Bills. I think you hit on the nose. Ultimately, they need somebody where Josh Allen can kind of just throw that thing up there and make a play every time. Somebody who is, because T. Higgins is a receiver, Doug, where it's like 50-50. Balls are not really 50-50 with him. He's 6'4", has one of the best catch radiuses in the league. He's a wide receiver one who's had to masquerade for the last 2 seasons as a wide receiver too. I think he completely takes that team over the top of the 3 you listed. One other team I would throw out there that I feel like he would be a perfect fit is the LA Chargers. I feel like ultimately with this big wide receiver market in free agency, they also have to swing for the fences with another wide receiver. They missed really bad with Quentin Johnston. And ultimately, the way they performed in that playoff game, you can look at the quarterback a lot. I would look at Justin Herbert a lot for the performance, but also the drops by his pass catchers did him no favors. So when I look at that and all of the intangible things that we need from the position, production-wise, I look at a T. Higgins, and I'm going to be honest, T. Higgins is a problem solver for a lot of teams. Like, not just a problem solver, but a needle mover. And what I mean by a needle mover, puts you in a better situation to go win a championship.
Yeah, I think the Chargers are a team that absolutely need to add a weapon and give Justin Herbert the best chance to have success. Now, next guy we'll talk about real quick is Chris Godwin. He's another receiver that can certainly help a team like the Chargers, quite frankly. He's not the flashiest. He's not the one that T. Higgins is, but played just 7 games last season, had the ankle injury, had 50 catches for 576 yards, had 5 touchdowns, former third-round pick out of Penn State. It was a pretty ugly ankle injury, and I think for him, it's teams like could go back to the Bucs. Chargers are an interesting team. I think the Texans make a lot of sense for him too. And you got Nico Collins, I mean, the best receiver for them, but Tank Dell, he had a really bad leg injury against the Chiefs in week 16. He could miss the entire 2025 season. Stephon Diggs coming off that torn ACL. He's hitting free agency. So I think that Godwin kind of makes some sense because CJ Stroud, they need to solidify that offensive line. And he also another guy that could benefit from some more weapons as well.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, when I feel like of the group, the biggest one I want to see is where Devontae Adams lands. I feel like ultimately he can be a wide receiver that can change. I mean, I just hope he doesn't do the package deal thing with Aaron Rodgers, because if he goes on his own, I mean, he's also a needle mover. I mean, he's still a top 10 guy at the position, even at his age. And his route running is still great. Ultimately, in that short stint he had with the Jets, I mean, he had over 800 yards, still had, 6-7 touchdowns. So the production is still there. He's probably the biggest name that I'm looking at when it comes to free agency, because there's a few teams that I do feel like would take the cap hit to bring him in. Ironically enough, I feel like he should just go back to Green Bay, though. I feel like a return to Green Bay would be good for him. It'd be good for Jordan Love, because I do think they need a consistent X. Like, they just don't have one. I think it's very much who's going to be that X for the day. So when I see those things, I definitely look at this list and I'm like, Devontae Adams, where are you going to fall in all of this?
Devontae Adams is interesting just because is it going to be a package deal with Aaron Rodgers? How in cahoots are those two? But look, Amari Cooper's out there. He's 30, feels a lot older than 30, but he's someone a 70 PFF grade essentially every season of his career. The drops really hurt Amari Cooper in 2024, had a 15.4% drop percentage. That definitely needs to be improved upon. I mean, does he move the needle? Not really for me. Stephon Diggs, another free agent that's out there as a wide receiver. And he's someone that, I mean, he was actually pretty solid. I mean, before the ACL tear, he was still helping teams. Then you got DeAndre Hopkins, another name. Hopkins was traded at the deadline from Tennessee to Kansas City. Never really exploded there like they probably hoped he would be. But, I mean, he was a pretty respectable target. He did have an 83.6 receiving grade. Marquise Brown, another guy. You got Darius Slayton. You got Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's interesting to me because Allen is just a great veteran to have on your team. And he's another one that really hurt the Chargers when he was gone, right? I mean, he's been so good for that organization for so long. So he's another guy. Then you got Deontay Johnson for the Ravens. You got Mike Williams for the Steelers. Look, I mean, it's interesting free agent class, but it's really top heavy with T. Higgins. And I think that's going to be the big domino. I think Devontae Adams, the interesting thing about him is just what version of Devontae Adams are you going to get this part of his career? Had a down year a couple years ago, pick things back up. I think it's basically, does he get to the most win now situation as possible? I think that's how you're going to get the best version of him. But